Hi, everyone, and welcome. First, a word of caution. I'm no financial or gambling guru. There's risk in everything, especially gambling, so be warned. I'm not an influencer either, so feel free to subscribe if you'd like to. Otherwise, enjoy. As I share a little about my roulette experience as my channel has mostly to do with my journey to learn and play and hopefully win at video poker. So feel free to skip ahead. I'll try to leave a timestamp for you to jump to if you're not interested in that. Let me first talk about my first exposure to roulette through my uncle giving me this unique piggy bank. You just put coins in there and it starts to turn this wheel. And I was just fascinated by that as a little kid, maybe even like trying to predict what number would happen. And it was just fun. It was just like a neat little toy. I didn't know anything about this game of roulette at that point. Um, then I learned it was a game, and I bought this little paper mat. Um, I don't know if it was Walmart or Target or something, and I played with it a little bit, and it was neat. I didn't know about the payouts. There was just these plastic chips you put on there, and I just thought you had to pick a number, like bingo or something. Anyway, I thought it was really fun and neat. Then, as I got older, I eventually had a chance to play in Vegas, and I was really nervous. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I really really wanted to play this game, and I finally got a chance to put $5 down. I think it was either red or black, and I won. And that was great. That was amazing. Everything I could have hoped for, having waited so long to finally play this game. It took a long time before I got to play again. Um, there's a casino called Pachanga. It's over in Temecula, and I had another chance there to play. I brought a lot of money in. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this once and for all, the real deal. And I got a huge win, and it got me obsessed. It got me hooked. They got me, all right. And I started thinking of all these different strategies and the math that goes along with this game. And I came up with eventually as I was playing and coming up with these strategies, I even got a few hand pays on electronic machines. You can imagine, right, with like the denominations of a quarter, right? That's how cheap these games were. How much you had to put into this machine, into this roulette to end up getting a hand pay. It was a lot, right? So I was playing every day, 4 hours for almost a year, just off of my initial big win. Um, I would be winning a lot, losing some, just coming up with new strategies and new ways of thinking about it, testing it at home, things like that. Eventually, my luck ran out. All right, I just had a string of bad luck, and those winnings that I got a year before finally ran out, and I took a break, right? And I had stored all of these strategies. A lot of them I felt were very successful and fun. Um, and so that brought me to what I've learned from that experience coming back to roulette nowadays. And I wanted to share it with you. So here we go. How to best test your roulette strategy. Um, so you could either have found a nice shiny new one or create your own that you think might break the casino, which would be awesome, right? First thing you want to do is place this strategy into a category of what your goal is the point. What's the point of this? What are you trying to do exactly with your gambling? Okay, it could either be low risk, maybe you want to do like long play, maybe comp, just low payout type stuff, right? It's not limited to these examples, but just to give you an idea, okay? Or high risk, short play, something like a hit and run, something with a big, huge payout, but you're risking a lot to get it, or a mix of both of these. It's got some recovery if things don't go too well. Maybe it's got a bit of a jackpot, something of a jack of all trades type of strategy. You really want to think about the complexity of this strategy, right? Very early on in my journey of roulette, a lot of my early strategies were very complex. Uh, and I gotta say, you gotta make it simple. Okay, complexity might seem cool and fancy, but it's overrated. You're more likely to make a mistake. It's unnecessary, and it really doesn't change the odds. Basically, with a few exceptions, every bet in roulette is essentially the same. Okay, besides some like that terrible basket bet, every other bet has the same house edge. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to change that. Okay. Next, consider your odds and the payout. Okay, understand that the greater the odds, the higher the cost can be. If in terms of like the probabilities, because you're just keep putting more and more. This is something like a negative progression, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So the lower the risk, typically the lower the payout. Okay, like if you're covering the whole or most of the board, you're going to end up getting very little in return, right? Like it's risk versus reward type of thing. Okay, same thing the other way around, right? If the odds are low of you hitting it, once you do hit it, you're going to get a huge payout, right? So you have to consider what are the odds, what are the payouts. All right, let's move on to progression betting. You think about what happens if you win or if you lose. Okay, are you going to increase your bet? Are you decreasing your bet? What happens with the bet itself? Okay, typically with something with lower odds of hitting, a lot of people tend to want to play the probabilities, right? So they want to keep betting and betting and betting, which tends to increase the costs, right? This is something we know as negative progression. The martingale, Fibonacci, those types of strategies tend to be negative progressive, trying to play the probabilities that it'll eventually hit at some point, hopefully before you run out of money, right? Or do you prefer positive progression, right? Do you want to parlay for a small probability of having a nice payout with a smaller bankroll? So that's something you have to think about, right? Is the betting progression itself and how that affects your budget. So let's move on to the budget. Bankroll. Find the negative expected value of the bet. I'm gonna post this really nice site called Jack Ace. You could put your bets there, and it'll calculate the expected value for you. Okay. Think about the average bet you're going to be making through whatever progression or flat bet you're going to be making, and put that in, and you'll see what you're expected on average to basically give the casino for this bet. Okay, this is ballpark though, and it's other than a flat bet, it's not going to be very effective at calculating long-term loss, because if your bet keeps changing a lot, bouncing back and forth, for example, the Fibonacci or the martingale, right? Once it hits, you usually progress downwards or even to the start of your betting. So it's not gonna be exact. It just gives you some idea to start off with. Okay. Once you've done that, now it's time to test your strategy. Okay, so go ahead and pick an app, whatever you'd like. There's tons of them out there. Free one. Okay, track everything. I mean everything. Right? How many spins? What's the frequency? Everything. Track it. Give that a good 500 to 1,000 spins. Okay, this isn't to test the validity. It's to work out minor kinks and to test this fun factor. After all, that's what really counts, is are you having fun playing this game? Okay. Then after that, perform a theoretical simulation of about 10,000 spins. Get ready for more math here. Okay. You're going to calculate your wins and your losses from that 10,000 spins. Okay. I'll be giving an example in another video of me doing this with a very popular strategy. Okay. But just keep that in mind. Don't be surprised that your total is going to end up being a negative number. Okay, one, it's gambling, and you're gambling on a negative expected value game. Okay, it's meant to end up being a negative number. If it doesn't end up being a negative number, maybe something went wrong in the math or in that process, I would suggest running it a good 3-5 times. The simulations you can get anywhere. I think Jack Ace shows you how to create your own simulation through roulette on an Excel sheet, but you could have Google run it. There's programs out there you can buy if you're that interested in it, but run it a good 3 to 5 times if it doesn't end up negative. Okay, it's meant to be negative. Basically, everyone agrees it's a negative expected gain. So if you don't end up with a negative number, something's off. Okay, so after calculating the negative cost, then go back and reevaluate your bankroll, right? Your strategy. Maybe you're betting too much. Maybe there's something wrong with the probabilities that you thought were there, but now you're seeing aren't there. Maybe your bankroll isn't big enough, or maybe that's just too high, and there's some changes you can make to make it cheaper for you, or have a smaller starting bankroll for basically the same type of strategy you're coming up with, or that you've chosen to be your go-to strategy. Now, if the simulation, right, doesn't match your initial 500, 1,000 spins, you got to understand that 1,000 spins has a lot of variance, okay? It's only there to work out the kinks and the fun factor. It's not there to prove the validity of the strategy itself. You really, really need some huge numbers, 10,000, 20,000 type numbers, okay, to give you the long-term average. This removes like the lucky streaks and the bad runs that you can get, because there's these videos out there. They'll test out the strategy for like 10-15 minutes. They might win. They might even win huge, and people are like, oh my gosh, I got to play this strategy, right? And then they go to the casino and they lose, or they might even win and think this is it, this is the one. Not understanding variance has a huge part to play when all you're doing is this very small sample size. Okay, you really need the larger sample size to get rid of variance. Next on, you want to move on to calculating possible comps. It's a last step because, well, you shouldn't be playing for comps necessarily. I think that's a bad idea. It's a nice bonus and definitely something to consider in terms of calculating your overall cost. If you really enjoy comps like rooms and food and stuff like that, then you definitely want to include that as part of your calculations. Okay. Right. Now that's what we have done. By the way, the comps itself is also calculated in the Jack Ace website. He'll also have a little meter there letting you know what the comp value is. Okay, but you can do it yourself. You're going to multiply your bet by the house edge, which is 0.0526, and then multiply that number by about 0.2 to 0.25 to give you an idea of how much comp the casino is possible to give you. But it's especially if the bets jump around a lot, I would lean towards the safer side, that the floor is probably only watching you place the lower bets. Okay, it's going to be rare that they'll see you placing the higher bets, as that's not very common. If you're trying to use a progression type system, that you'll get that high. Okay. Anyway, now that you've done all that, you're ready to test with real money. Okay. Start with the quarter machine, or the lowest possible game that you can find, and do that several times, like 5-10 times. Okay. Now this is to practice sticking to the strategy without getting emotional. Okay. A lot of us have a plan. We know when I hit X amount, I'm good, I'm gonna leave, or when I lose X amount, I'm gonna leave, and that's a very good idea to have a win stop, have a loss stop. But once money gets involved, some people get very emotional. They start chasing their losses when they shouldn't. They start thinking, this is it. I'm on a run. I'm on a hot streak. I can't stop now. And then all of a sudden they lose, right? So you want to practice when the bet is very low to just get over that emotional aspect of it. Okay. Now, once that's done, well, now you're ready. You have your new strategy. You go to the table now. You have sufficient knowledge of what you could possibly expect in terms of your bankroll, what's going to happen with the strategy, how often it loses, how often it wins, what kind of win and loss you can kind of expect, right? You have a range now in mind. And there you go. You found your new, fun, exciting strategy, right? So let me know down below what you think about what I've learned through my process in these years of playing roulette. And have fun. Thank you.